Welcome to Not Just Money with your hosts, Doretta and Lee. This isn't your typical podcast about finances. It's a podcast about all the money conversations we aren't having, sometimes not even with ourselves. Join us on this journey of hard truths, lived experience, and the wisdom that comes from both. Because money is never just about money.
Hey Lee, you ready for a tough topic today? Because we're taking on romance scams.
Nope. I hate this topic. And honestly, if we really wanted to make a splash, we should have released this for Valentine's Day.
I don't think so. Romance scams have nothing to do with romance. They are fraud, pure and simple.
I'm not sure any type of fraud is that simple. This is fraud on an industrialized scale. According to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, total losses due to fraud was $645 million in 2024, and it's only growing. By September 30th of 2025, the last available numbers, reported losses were at $544 million.
I really like the way the Fraud Center reports those numbers. Like they're right on the homepage in that great big bold box. How big are romance scams?
I think it's their way of highlighting the impact. Maybe trying to take the shame out of it to say,
Yep.
hey, you're not the only one and look how big these numbers are.
Yep.
And remember, these are also estimated numbers because not everyone reports. As for romance scams, they are one of the biggest after investment scams and spear phishing. More than 58 million in 2024. And some individuals can lose really large sums of money. Entire life savings gone, credit maxed out, all of it.
I've seen that there have been some as big as $2 million, like a single person in a romance scam. Okay,
Crazy.
investment scams, really obvious. Maybe you should explain spear phishing.
Yeah, I had to do a double take when I saw that too. So phishing scams, that's phishing with a PH, are those mass distribution scams that send large numbers of random email addresses. I think most of us get those weekly, if not daily. Spear phishing is much more targeted and goes after an individual or organization. Much smaller pool, but much bigger rewards for the fraudsters.
This is probably really bad of me, but I love the way they use language, like phishing and spear phishing with the PH. Like it's a lot of fun and really good playing with words. But basically,
Until you're
investments.
scammed.
Oh yeah. But investment scams, spear phishing, and romance scams, those are the big three. And just to be clear, the numbers on the Fraud Center, those are the reported numbers. Those are real numbers, but they're vastly underreported.
Yeah, and I expect especially romance scams because people are so ashamed and embarrassed. They estimate that only about 5 to 10% of romance scams are reported.
Yeah. And do you know what? I get that. When I was doing my reading for this episode, I was so shocked at how incredibly mean the comments were. There were whole Reddit threads that just went on and on about how stupid could these people be, and why would she, and it was always a she, why would she believe that some handsome rich guy would possibly be interested in her? Like, I was shocked and dismayed and disgusted.
Because they can be anonymous.
Yeah, that's part of it. But you know what? I don't think anonymity is the only reason. There's this really interesting French philosopher named Emmanuel Levinas.
Oh, God, here we go. Down the Doretta rabbit hole.
This will only take a minute, and it's relevant, really.
A Doretta minute or a real minute? Just want to be clear.
Me minute. Levinas had this idea that he called rapport de face à face, or face-to-face relationship. And he argued that face-à-face is actually an ethical imperative. When I look into your face, I see you as a human. I see you as real. I see you as vulnerable. And that makes it an ethical imperative. So to put it in context, Levinas was a Jew. He was captured by the Nazis, survived a labor camp. His whole family was wiped out. And he said that the Nazis did not look at the faces of the Jewish prisoners. They looked through them, they looked around them, they looked past them, but they never looked into their faces because that would be to confront their humanity.
Well, that got dark real fast.
It is
Um,
dark. It's dark. And
so
romance
are we?
scams are dark. So how people treat one another on the internet is dark.
So I mean, are you making that reference for the scammers or for the people who are commenting anonymously? I think both of
Specifically,
them fit.
both of them fit, but specifically I'm talking about the comments. You know how vicious um, commentary gets? I mean, mostly I try not to read comments, even on newspaper articles and stuff. But here's the thing. Levina died in 1995, but I don't think he would be remotely surprised by the viciousness of online cruelty. Because it's not just the anonymity of the commentator that permits that kind of cruelty. It's also the facelessness of the victim. So you get the scorn and the viciousness that I was seeing when these people are commenting on the victims of romance scams because they're not treating them as people.
I see that. It's this whole idea is I don't see their faces to feel sorry for them. I don't see them similar to me. There's none of that relatability. I think romance scammers are the scum of the earth. There, I said it. They prey on loneliness and hope, and it breaks my heart.
Me too. I just hate it. I hate it so viscerally. So let's take a hard look at romance scams, what they are, who they target, how they target, and the warning signs that you or a loved one should be aware of to maybe prevent from becoming a victim. Let's start with the scammers themselves. Who are they?
Well, they are not who they say they are, that's for sure. And they aren't even lone individuals. They're actually sophisticated criminal organizations, mostly from Southeast Asia, West Africa, and Eastern Europe. And they basically run fraud factories. The scams themselves are usually run by trafficked labor.
Yeah, and if you're interested in how these organizations work, there is this absolutely brilliant podcast called Scam Inc. by Sulin Wong, who's an Asian correspondent for The Economist magazine. Do you remember when that came out last year? I couldn't get over it. It just blew me away. It might be behind a paywall, but it is really brilliant and terrifying, and we'll include a link in the notes to this episode.
And if you're a Disney subscriber or have access to Nat Geo, there's also a series called Traffic with Mariana von Zeller. Season 2 has a whole episode devoted to romance scams. Now be careful. If you're going to watch or listen to any of these resources, you may never leave the house again. So that's my content warning because there was a moment where Doretta and I were like, we can never do anything. Okay. So that's who they actually are. But let's look at who they say they are. So there's quite a number of frequent fictional identities that these scammers rely on. They're international doctors, they're military personnel stationed overseas, they're engineers on oil rigs, wealthy widowers, crypto investors.
Yep. And these guys create, and they're mostly guys, that create fake identities, and they often use fake photographs that they've copied from somewhere on the internet.
Or honestly, AI generated. With the wide adoption of AI use, it's made these scams so much easier to perpetuate. I've even heard stories of just regular online dating, right? Like people who alter their profile pictures. My one friend always requests a video call before investing time. This is how prevalent it has become.
God.
Now, yeah, right? I
Yeah.
mean, thank God I no longer have to date. Like, that's all I have to say. Um, when you look at these specific personas, these identities are chosen for very targeted reasons. One, they sound mysterious and kind of sexy, but there's a distance component to it, right? So there's, an explanation to why they can't meet you in person, why there is irregular communication. or there are sudden financial quote unquote emergencies.
And we'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about the red flags. But before we get there, let's look at who they're preying on. Who are they targeting? And basically, anybody can be targeted. They're a little different on different platforms. But according to the Canadian data, the primary targets are women over 40 on dating platforms, widowed, divorced, or newly single people, seniors living alone, professionals with stable incomes. That's probably who's hitting on you on LinkedIn or why they're hitting on you on LinkedIn. People who are active on social media who share personal details. Don't do that. And one of the saddest things that I have seen, they will target women who have just left abusive relationships. They call this trauma bonding.
That's disgusting.
It is disgusting.
Um, okay. In Canada, reported victims, so the people who have reported being scammed, tend to skew older. Though remember, shame keeps this significantly underreported. But it's getting younger, especially through platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and gaming platforms. I am convinced that there's a special place in hell for these people.
Yep. So, yeah, that's where they're finding their victims. Dating apps and sites, Tinder, Hinge, Grinder, OkCupid, that kind of thing. Apparently, Tinder is the big one, or at least, is still the big one right now. Facebook and Instagram, direct messaging. So people who post publicly about themselves, and then they will get direct messages from people they've never heard of before. I haven't posted publicly on Facebook for a lot of years now, but I can remember that it's like, why are these weird men sending me direct messages? Very strange. And LinkedIn posing as generally executive or military contractors. In Sulin Wang's podcast, Scam Inc., one of the scams that she got hold of, she goes through two big ones through this podcast, was actually a guy in Canada, and it was done through LinkedIn.
Yeah, but remember, they don't stay on the platforms. That's
Yeah.
actually one of the big red flags. They will try to move the conversation off the platform really quickly. So if you're on a dating site, they'll move you off the site so that you're no longer under the site's monitoring.
Yeah, exactly. So let's look a little closer how they operate, what these scams typically look like, because there really is a pattern and you can learn to recognize it.
I think there's actually a script that they follow.
Yep.
Like, it's like baking a bread. It's like step 1, measure the flour. And I think it's um that specific in how they do this work.
It goes like this. They'll start a conversation around your dating profile or something you've left on social media, wherever they've got an in with you. And when you respond, they'll chat a bit, and then they'll suggest that you move the conversation off the platform, say to WhatsApp. And then the conversation will very suddenly get very intense, really, really fast. And they will say things like, I've never felt this way before. You're just perfect. You're my soulmate.
Yuck.
I
Yuck.
feel like I've
Yuck,
known
yuck,
you
yuck.
forever. Let's build a
Yuck.
future together.
Ew. Okay, no, even if regular people say that to you, run away. No. No. I mean, I understand what that is. They call it love bombing. Never trust it. Scammer or not. And to be honest, I actually get a ridiculous number of these fake profiles through LinkedIn because I think it's because it's my only social platform that I use.
So, okay, so the love bombing, and then before long, the money ask will follow. And the way they ask for money is pretty predictable. It will start small, like custom fees for a package or gift cards to help temporarily. Remember, they've built up this bio for themselves that's generally built on distance. So the kinds of asks they'll make might be for custom fee, gift cards just to help temporarily, an emergency medical bill, or the cost, this is a big one, cost of a plane ticket to visit you. And typically it's a small amount first, and they'll be so grateful. That pulls you in, and then it escalates. It creeps up a little bit more. There's a little bigger need, a bigger crisis, and then it gets really, really urgent.
And if you've maybe fallen in love with the person you think is behind the scam, maybe send highly personal pictures.
Don't do
It
that.
can actually devolve into threats and exploitation. For example, posting pictures publicly, sending it to your workplace, sending it to your friends and family. Yeah, pro tip, just don't do that in general, I
Sick,
think,
sick.
because, yeah, it's not even about scammers, but sometimes I've heard these terrible stories about just bad relationships. And those pictures, once they're on the internet, they're there forever.
I think as a general rule, don't send anything electronically that you wouldn't show your mother. Like, seriously.
It's so true. And the way they ask you to send money is also pretty predictable. What we've seen in Canada is, gift cards because they're untraceable, wire transfers, e-transfers, and increasingly cryptocurrency. They want the money as fast and as irretrievable as possible.
There's another scam that's increasing really quickly that we should mention there, and that's the investment romance scam. It kind of blends romance scam with crypto. So the scammer builds trust with you and then gives you a link to a sure thing trading platform.
Yeah, and it looks sophisticated and probably legit. It's not. It's just a bunch of fake dashboards showing fake profits. And it's a dead giveaway when you try to make a withdrawal and you can't, not without paying fees. But honestly, it's because the money is already gone. Oh, God, it's so depressing. Okay. There are also scam demographics that I think is helpful to know. So, based on reported scams in Canada, ages 18 to 29, you're looking at more, crypto investment and romance hybrid. And the platforms that they're using to target their victims: Instagram, TikTok, dating apps. From ages 30 to 49, that's the divorced professional romance. I feel like I fall under this one. I like to casually drop in when I get a message from these guys. I'm happily married to someone who works at Interpol. That tends to kill the vibe. I would say every few weeks, I get a random message or a connection from somebody who's clearly not who they say they are. So the platforms, LinkedIn as a big one, and of course, dating sites. Now, financial losses can be really high because this group often has stable income and savings. Then you look at ages 50 to 69. Those would be your widowers or military officers seeking companionship. And the platforms they use will be Facebook and dating apps because we know Facebook now skews a little older. And this group reports some of the largest total dollar losses in Canada. And then there are ages 70 and above. And that tends to fall under the category of long term emotional manipulation. Platforms, Facebook, and also by email. Like sometimes they'll just randomly reach out to you by email, and perhaps you're, alone at this point and very vulnerable and looking to have a friend. That's when it starts. There are also correlated scams that branch out from here, and one of the biggies are money mules.
Oh, God.
This is also a growing thing in Canada. So picture this: you are romantically linked to a scammer, but they are romantically linked to a dozen people or more. They will often ask one of their victims to receive money, sometimes from one of the other victims that they're scamming. Then at some point, wire it to them or help them buy something. It can also be money from illegitimate gains. It's a way to hide and conceal where that money originated. So now you're part of a money laundering operation.
Dear God, it just gets worse. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Let's talk about the red flags to notice early and how you can test to see if you're dealing with a real world person who genuinely cares about you or a scammer working to a script. Early warning signs, that's what we're going to talk about, that tell you to run like hell.
I would say first, the patterns we've just outlined, right? If this sounds familiar to you, Please look at other resources and ask a friend, right? The predictable identities, getting off the platforms immediately, love bombing, early money requests. These are all red flags by themselves. So, what do you do? Well, start by doing what you can to confirm the identity you're given. Expand on profiles. How long have they been around? On LinkedIn, is their profile only a week old? Do they have more than 10 connections? Do they have a digital footprint? If there's an image or a name, do a search. Oftentimes, if they're using someone else's identity, you can do a reverse lookup. And lots of people put out scam alerts. It's like when you get a call and you look up that number. A lot of people will put that on the web to say, "Hey, this is a scam. Don't talk to them, don't answer." Or simply ask for a video call. You'd be surprised how many reasons they'll provide you not to get on video.
So another thing you can do is just slow everything down. If you're online dating, set some rules for yourself and follow them. First of all, stay on that dating platform. Refuse private, exclusive talk, an encrypted message board or whatever for the first month. Be really, really skeptical of love bombing. No matter how much you want to be loved, just be very skeptical of that kind of way too fast, over the top attention. And as a rule, you do not send money in any shape or form before you meet the person in real life. No exceptions, none.
I wouldn't even engage in financial discussions at all with someone you only know online. That
Why
just
would
doesn't
you?
feel right. Yeah, why like
Why
if you
would
if
you?
you're meeting someone who says we're going to build a life together, make them pay for it.
Yeah.
Right? Don't be like, "I'm gonna offer my life savings." No, I'd be like, "Great. You're gonna build a life. How much do you bring into this relationship? Cut me a check." Reverse scam them. That's all I gotta say.
And it's really important also, though, don't just look at what they say, look at what they won't do. So, does that person always refuse to chat via video, always have an excuse to cancel? And do their excuses start to not make sense? I mean, demand a live video chat in real time, a spontaneous action like hold up today's newspaper or show me the room that you're in. And if they refuse and they keep making excuses, major, major, major red flag. Their Wi-Fi is always insufficient for a video chat. Really? They're a international doctor, but their internet connection craps out on any request for a video chat. It just doesn't make sense. It does not make sense.
Well, if your Wi-Fi is insufficient, so is my identity and my money. Now, confirm the evidence. So we already mentioned it, right? The example, the pictures they send are never in real time and you can't place them in real time. Do that reverse image search. Super easy with Google search or even AI platforms. Scammers are known to use stolen images, sometimes famous ones. So stock images or like celebrities in their home countries, like you wouldn't know them, but everybody else and wherever they're from would. And this isn't just a red flag, it's a red flippin' sledgehammer.
The same is true for their personal messages. Even the so-called love messages, when you look at them through the cold hard light of objectivity, are they super formulaic? Reverse search them too. Like, are they just memes and stolen notes?
Here's a big one. They urge you to secrecy. This is so bizarre to me. We live our lives more and more publicly and online, but your new quote unquote fancy relationship doesn't want to be Instagram official? Nah, don't buy it. And and they'll use language like, "Don't tell anyone about us. Our relationship is special. No one would understand." Yeah, I strongly recommend against this. If you are embarrassed to tell anyone, your brain is delivering a message. If nothing else, tell one close friend who can do an objective second thought or just a sanity check.
Yeah. If you can't bring yourself to tell somebody close to you in real life about this, you need to ask yourself why. that reluctance is a real red flag. Another thing is things that just feel a little bit off in your interchanges. Now, these can be subtle, but seriously, if you're dealing with online relationships, you need to have your antenna out anytime. And things like, strange pauses followed by feeble excuses for their absence. Your messages are way longer than theirs, and yours are personal, whereas theirs are kind of impersonal.
That's what happens when they're probably juggling like 12 relationships, right? They can't get personal because they might get the details wrong.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, man. And then there's the whole fact that they're avoiding answering direct questions about themselves. That's so dodgy. And again, responding to your message in super generic ways. And
You
if you've
mean?
been in those relationships, wait, well, no, it's like, okay, so I'll give you an example. Say you text, my child is ill. They won't ask about that specifically or follow up. They'll say something like, oh, you have a child? Tell me about them, to keep you talking and revealing more about yourself, hoping that you're going to give them more information to help them scam you.
Sleazy. Okay, I'd say another red flag would be inconsistencies in the stories that they do tell about themselves. Like poor grammar that's inconsistent with the education they say that they have. No reliable internet when they're, an international executive or whatever the heck it is in a foreign city. I mean, really, they have good internet in foreign cities. Just little secret.
I'm not gonna lie, you seem very hung up about this bad Wi-Fi situation. Did you go into another like Reddit
Yes.
hole where everybody was like, "Oh, well, people who say they have bad internet is lying to you?"
Yes, I did.
Yeah, for those of you just listening, Doretta's 100% trying to cover her face with her hair for whatever reason on this. But yeah, like she's clearly obsessed with that. That's the second time she's mentioned it. Okay. Anyways, so we're going to hope that you've spotted these red flags early and stopped the conversation. So this is like a review for you.
Or you could take it over just to make it fun, bait them. See how far you can push them. I have read some journalists who've done this, and I think it could actually be a positive thing in the sense that you are taking back control and see how long you can push it until they stop the conversation. It could be fun.
Or a complete waste of time and energy. I mean, okay, I get journalists, they get a story out of it. But for your average person, don't do it. Don't attract criminal attention.
Oh, right.
No, come on. I mean, that could also be dangerous. You don't know who these people are. My dad always said, Lee, sometimes you need to keep your opinions to yourself. You have no idea who you might piss off on the street. Side note. Okay. The hope is, though, if you spot the patterns of behaviors early, you'll be able to get out of town unscathed. You've given them nothing, no money or gift cards, no financial information or access to cards, no personal intimate photos.
God, especially, please, no personal intimate photos ever. They can be used against you. General rule, like I said, do not upload to anyone ever something you wouldn't show your mother.
Now I gotta wonder, Doretta also mentioned showing their mother. What pictures do you have? Clearly, this is top of mind. Anyways. And I would add, or your daughter in my case. I don't know if my mom would
Well,
actually care, but
actually, or your daughter is a good one because remember, it's like a lot of seniors get targeted or, older women. So,
yeah, I mean, though I suppose now with AI, you can always say that photo is being used against you and is fake news or
yeah,
deep fakes in that
yeah,
case. I guess
very
there's
deep.
one way to excuse yourself. Yeah, very deep.
Okay.
Ugh.
Okay. So, what if you don't figure out you're being scammed until you've already sent money or information?
Well, first off, I'm really sorry. This is tough. And the reality is that you've lost a lot more than money. You haven't just been scammed, you've been betrayed. And that hurts and that cuts deep. You're probably dealing with very strong emotions as well, like shame, isolation, depression, loss of trust, or maybe even family conflict, depending on how this was discovered.
Okay, so let's talk about what to do if you've been scammed. You're mad, you're ashamed, maybe your heart's broken.
I think that last one is the worst.
Yeah, but you need to act, okay? You really need to act. First thing, contact your financial institution immediately if you sent money, shared any account details, or sent e transfers. Depending on how fast you report it, they may be able to freeze or trace the transactions.
Second, report it to the authorities. This includes the Canadian Anti Fraud Centre. This is the primary national reporting body in Canada. They've got an online fraud reporting system, or you can phone them. And especially for seniors, they have such a great program where once they know that something awful has happened, there's folks who volunteer and will call up and check up on you. Because the truth of the matter is, if you've been scammed once, you become a target for all the other scammers and they will continue to come after you. So I really appreciate the Anti Fraud Center for investing in resources like that. There's also the RCMP, especially if there's a large financial loss, identity theft, or you are being threatened in any way. And we'll provide this information in the episode notes. And of course, also contact your local police department, especially if any of these details will come back later. Having reported to the police gives you some paper trail. Not to say that they will be able to find these perpetrators. Like we mentioned, they're generally international, but it does help when you have to deal with any loss recovery that might be possible.
So, if you've shared any financial access information, contact the two credit bureaus in Canada, Equifax and TransUnion, and request a fraud alert and have them monitor your credit. Really important.
And report the scam directly to wherever platform you are using. The dating app, Facebook, Instagram, any crypto platforms. This will help prevent future victims, or at least they can keep track of it.
I want to say a few words about dealing with shame because this, in some ways, I think is the hardest part. But I think that it's really important that you remember that you are not the first and you will not be the last. You're not alone and you are not defined by having fallen victim to this scam. You can't beat yourself up about, I should have seen it. But what you can do, think about how you can reframe what's happened. It's not that you were stupid, you were targeted, and you were targeted by a very sophisticated scamming machine that's using scripts that are deliberately engineered. They use social psychology, attachment triggers, urgency tactics, an authority bias, all of these things that are tested over multiple scams. They know what works. Those people making those calls or those people behind who are answering who you think is a real person, they're working to a script that has been tested and refined over time. So I think it's really important that you take practical steps to own what's happened and then to move forward. So, first of all, tell one safe person because secrecy only makes it worse. Second, just reframe the narrative. Keep reminding yourself you were targeted. Don't fall into I was stupid, I am helpless, I'm not a good person. That's not what happened. And finally, I would suggest that you may want to seek counseling if the emotional fallout is just more than you can deal with. And there are also fraud victim support groups. Look into it, talk, get rid of the secrecy, empower yourself, take back your control.
Okay. I have a confession to make. Sometimes when I read the amount of money scammers get away with, it makes me upset. These are folks who sent their entire retirement savings. You're talking about sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I have to wonder, at what point do you not realize something is wrong? Okay, I get one big payment, but your Whole life savings? I can't. I am judging a little. Okay. Okay, maybe a little more than a little. And yes, this makes me a bad person. And yes, I get the love and the insecurities and the trauma that's associated. But really, your entire life savings, there was no point before that where you're like, hey, this doesn't feel right.
I think that is why this is so underreportedly. I really do.
I know, and I'm sorry. I am. But maybe this is that moment where you should tell a trusted person at any point, get some perspective, or maybe if you see something as an outside observer, we've listed what some of those red flags were. Step in because it could be their entire future that goes down the drain. Can you imagine if you are pre retirement or just post retirement and you lose every single dollar that you have saved throughout your working career? Actually, on that note, I think we should also say something about what to look for if you think that a family member or a friend might be caught up in a scam beyond kind of the red flags we talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, remember who the scammers target, right? Women over 40 on dating platforms, widowed, divorced, newly single individuals, seniors who are living alone. These could be your siblings, your friends, your parents. It's really good to know the warning signs.
Yeah, or maybe your neighbor or someone you see at the mall or at the park, whatever. Here are a few things I think you should pay attention to. Sudden secretive behavior. It could be phone or computer use, like quickly closing screens, refusing to discuss who they're talking to, and taking calls privately at strange hours. You might also notice that they're less social, not meeting up with friends, canceling family plans, and just always wanting to stay at home or spending way too much time online.
And remember the patterns that we talked about, the long distance fake identities, rapid emotional intensity. So, like, say your widowed mother starts talking about a perfect new partner overseas. Remember those long distance identities that scammers frequently use, the crazy fast emotional intensity, the request for secrecy. So, if she tells you she's met her soulmate and he's working through a retired executive program on the other side of the world and wants to keep the relationship a secret because people wouldn't understand, yeah, you have a right to be worried.
Yeah, and if you have access, look for financial changes that don't make sense, like unexplained withdrawals, large e transfers, gift card purchases, or wiring money overseas.
If they mention sending passport photos or copies of their driver's license or banking details, that's time for an immediate intervention. Immediate, immediate.
I mean, noticing something suspicious is one thing, addressing it, however, is actually a whole other matter, especially if we're talking about a parent. It's really important that you approach this with sensitivity because accusations will just feed into the emotional dependence the scammers are trying to create. And sometimes it just becomes the proof point of what the scammers were saying. It's like they won't understand our love. They're going to try to keep us apart. And so what you're doing is you're actually feeding that narrative. So go gently.
And just really focus on helping them maintain their dignity. So you don't want to go on the offensive and sound like you're attacking them or that you're really frustrated that you think they're behaving stupidly. You can't say, "What in the name of God were you thinking?" This is not a successful strategy. No, I told you so, no public confrontations. I think maybe start by just asking questions, right? Like, can we look at this together? I'm worried someone might be taking advantage of you. Be gentle about it, be curious, but be intentional. Sorry, you hate that word, but be deliberate and focused.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any conversation that ended well that started with, I told you so, or what were you thinking? Just as a general thought.
If your loved one is the victim of a scam, help them with the steps we've already discussed, reporting it to the authorities, dealing with their financial institutions, credit bureaus, all that kind of stuff. Be helpful, be sympathetic, pull back on the anger and the judgment.
Yeah, don't be me, in other words. You might also want to take some preventative steps now, right? We've kind of described their target demographics. So if you're listening and you're like, "Ooh, I have someone in my life that kind of fits that profile," have open conversations about online fraud. Normalize checking stories together, especially if they're a little older and trying online dating for the first time. And if the person you're concerned about lives alone, encourage social activities offline and keep communications frequent and warm. Okay. We've focused on romance scams online because that's where most of them are these days. But we should say a quick word about the old fashioned one off con artists who romance the vulnerable. It sounds weirdly like the tagline of a movie, but I'm going to leave it at that.
Well, they've been around forever, you know. I mean, con man is a 19th century term, confidence man.
Wait. OMG, the con stood for something?
Of course, it stood for something. And even now, as some of them actually move around from town to town, they'll have like a long track record of having done this. They're typically very charming, they tell great stories, and they're very gifted at insinuating themselves into the lives of vulnerable people.
And that's where the word to be conned came from?
Yes, they create
Okay,
false
I'm sorry.
confidence, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that I don't know. Does everybody know this? Am I the only one who doesn't? My mind is actually officially blown.
You're just trying to
Okay.
make me feel really, really old, aren't you?
You know what? Please write into us and tell me who's right, Doretta or Lee, and prove one of us wrong. Um, Gosh, where were we?
Oh, we
Right,
were talking about con men and
comment.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, totally derailed me for a minute. The patterns are the same too, right? When we're comparing online versus offline, once they build trust, they'll accelerate the relationship. Everything happens fast and seems romantic. Money problems still start small and then they grow and grow and grow. And they'll use the same kind of excuses for urgent needs for funds, right? Inheritance or insurance delays, funds tied up overseas or in a business investment, medical expenses, etc., etc.
So if you find yourself the victim of a sudden too good to be true relationship, just err on the side of caution, double check the stories, talk your concerns through with a friend who can be more objective. If this is a real life person you're dealing with, get them to meet some of your friends. I mean, if they resist that, that's a bit of a red flag. And if you have provided any financial access, you know the rules by now. Contact your financial institution, change all your passwords, all that kind of stuff.
And if it's your parent that you suspect is being victimized, like we said, be compassionate but protective. You might find it helpful to involve a trusted friend, like a third party, or a financial advisor, or even a faith leader.
And you know what? Let's not pretend this is easy because it's not. The victims of romance scams have lost so much more than money. They've lost faith in their own judgment. They have been shamed, and quite possibly they've had their hearts broken. So just, I'll say it again, be kind and compassionate, but also be tough in protecting them and in trying to recover what can be recovered. Okay, 3 learnings from today.
Romance scams prey on loneliness and hope. As we said in the beginning, they start off with a story, probably a sad one, a script that offers acceptance, love, a future, maybe even a rescue. Basically, they want to reflect back to the victim what they want most. But they speed up intimacy, which rapidly turns to requests for money. Never, ever, ever send money to someone you haven't met in person, no matter how good their quote unquote reasons for inaccessibility are.
Number 2, the internet didn't invent romance scams. but technology has scaled them up like crazy. And it's just going to get worse. But scammers do leave telltale signs, behavior patterns, little inconsistencies. Be aware of them. And there are boundaries that you can put around your own behavior to protect yourself. Use them. And this applies not just to you yourself, but also to family and friends, especially if they're older, divorced, or widowed, living alone if they're lonely. Know the warning signs that someone in your life may be being victimized.
Remember that romance scams at scale are run by organized crime. It's nasty, nasty business. Some of these are even run in compounds that utilizes slavery, and they're getting increasingly sophisticated. Be kind to yourself, but don't hide the shame. It's important that you report it to your financial institution, which may be able to recover some or all of your funds, as well as the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the RCMP, the National Cybercrime Coordination Center, and the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. And we'll include links in the description. But if you don't check that or click on anything, I will leave you with this: report cyberandfraud.canada.ca.
Okay, that's all for today. If you've got thoughts on romance scams or other kinds of financial fraud, why not drop us a line at notjustmoneypodcast@gmail.com.
Good talk. You've been listening to Not Just Money with Doretta and Lee. Click on the show's description for links to resources related to today's conversation. Our aim is to share sources that provide objective information that can help you make informed financial decisions. Please rate and review our show. If you'd like to get in touch with us, email us at notjustmoneypodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to be featured on the show, you can send us your questions and comments by a written email, audio file, or video file. Please include your name and city. This show is produced and edited by Lee, with original music by Leo Zhang cello and artwork by John Tu. Now for some legalese. Please note that the views expressed by our hosts and guests are theirs alone and should not be viewed as financial advice. This podcast is intended to be entertainment and educational in nature. Please seek additional professional support or information before acting on any podcast information. As always, good talk.